Hey guys, I'm back for another video and welcome to Hypixel SkyBlock, and today we're going to talk about the possibility of the game mode updating from 1.8.9, which is the version that every game mode on Hypixel uses, all the way up until 1.16. Now this might sound insane. People are probably going to be like, well, that's not possible, ThirtyVirus. The entire network is on 1.8.9, and if they were to update to 1.16, well, you said it yourself in your rant about Mojang that modern versions are just not possible with modern versions because it performs really badly. There's a whole bunch of new features that people don't like. But what if I told you that Hypixel already is doing some magic with their plugins that allows you to log in and play with features from a version that the server is not? To that, I bring up the fact that all of Hypixel actually runs on 1.7 in the background. So the server itself is running 1.7, and through developer plugin magic that I can't begin to imagine how they even did it, Hypixel is able to simulate 1.8, and that is how every single game mode is running right now. People can log in with 1.8.9 even though in reality the server is 1.7. Also, you might notice a few features in other game modes other than SkyBlock. For example, I've noticed in Bed Wars, if you log in with a modern client, then all of the beds are different colors. So little features like that hint at the fact that there's a bit more going on than what we think in the background, and I wanted to confirm this, so I asked Jay Varman myself. I gave him this huge list of ideas that I'm actually going to get into later in the video, and I was like, would it be possible to just straight up simulate 1.9 in Hypixel SkyBlock? And he said yes. So we have some interesting information here, chat. It turns out if Hypixel wanted to, they could implement any feature from any version of the game past 1.8 to an extent. There's a couple that probably won't translate all that well, but like pretty much everything can be simulated through 1.7 plus custom plugin development, and we'd be able to play modern versions of the game on Hypixel without any lag, without any capacity problems. So what's the catch? Well, I feel like this sort of thing is great. It's really cool. It would be pretty neat to have modern versions of Minecraft working in Hypixel SkyBlock. Imagine, right? The different islands and blocks that could be possible. Again, I'm not going to get into it right now because that's the second half of the video, but the problem is the amount of time it would take to develop something like this. So one thing that Jay had to say about my proposal is that, well, although everything is possible, it would take like 6 months to implement because it's very complicated. They, of course, would have to remake almost every system in SkyBlock to make it work for modern versions. So that's the biggest problem that Hypixel has right now. Now, I've had conversations talking about the biggest problem in Hypixel SkyBlock right now, which, believe it or not, is IRL trading and duping and stuff like that. There's apparently a huge market for it, and right now it's not only ruining the economy of SkyBlock, but it's actually sapping away a big money-making opportunity for Hypixel themselves. I'm not going to get too much in detail on what their plans are, but they're going to find a way to knock out both of these problems at once. And I think if they do it correctly, they will not only get enough funding to hire a bunch of new developers, but they might actually fix the economy and stop the false wipes and bans. So that's cool. So let's go with the scenario that Hypixel implements a feature that makes them a lot of money and it kills IRL trading and duping and stuff like that. So now they have a bunch of extra funding. They hire like a dozen developers. Now 6 months turns into like 2 or 3 months. Now what could they do with modern versions of Minecraft? Well, luckily, to answer that question, I put together a huge Google Doc of information that would be relevant to this question. So this is my proposal for the Far End Island update. Here's the structure of this island. It's a large end city floating in the sky, of course, like any other SkyBlock island, and it's accessed through the portal at the bottom of the dragon's nest. So there isn't a portal now, but there would be one, like, towards the back. There'd be lots of smaller islands around a much bigger island and each little island will actually have stuff there, and there'd be reasons to go there with an elytra, because again, we're talking about 1.9, so pretty much exclusively this update is 1.9, 1.10, I think a little 1.11, but mostly 1.9 features. So the city would be made up of endstone bricks and purpur blocks, and it'd be ruined. Everything would be very open. There'd be end rods for lighting. Outside of the main city, there'd be slums that are made with overworld blocks, so maybe like dirt and wood and stuff like that. And there'd be beetroot farms just in the backyards of the slums, which would mean a new collection in Minion. Ooh. And these slums would be occupied by villagers that would run away scared from players and try to hide, and I guess you'd be able to kill them. Maybe they won't drop anything, maybe there'll be an RNG drop associated with it, who knows. And course plants would be planted all around the border of the island and on the little islands surrounding it, and sparsely dispersed within the middle of the island. Again, a new collection in Minion. This island would feature 2 quests. There'd be a scavenger hunt as well as a parkour challenge. I've yet to see a parkour challenge in Hypixel SkyBlock. I think it'd be really cool if it was something like in the Bed Wars lobby or the Sky Wars lobby, that it would disable all flight, all abilities from from items, just like in dungeons, how there's certain rooms where you can't use the AOTE, something like that. You step on a pad and then you get to do the parkour challenge, and I think that'd be really neat to get a talisman or maybe some buff or something. That'd be a cool new quest, something fresh, different. As for weapons and equipment, one of the unique weapons of this area would be a slingshot that shoots lingering potions, again 1.9 feature, that has an effect similar to the soliquifier from Call of Duty Zombies. If anyone's played Black Ops 2, I think it's called Die Rise is the map. It's really cool. The soliquifier is it shoots like slime, like purple slime or goo that the zombies, or in this case any enemy, would slip around on. They would take damage per second, kind of like poison, and then on death they would explode, and then more goo would go flying everywhere, and it would have like this infectious spreading effect, and it could keep going and going as long as you feed more mobs into it. So that'd be really neat. Another piece of equipment that would be neat would be X-ray goggles that would reveal enemies from behind walls using the spectral arrow effect. And another piece of equipment would be the shulker box. As I just said, 1.9, 1.10 features. It would basically be a backpack, except it would have a higher capacity. So you would craft a greater backpack with a whole bunch of shulker shells, and it would make a shulker box, which would have a full double chest capacity, as opposed to the greater bag, which has 4 rows. So that would be sick. So now we're on to the new mechanics segment of the island, the far end island. Of course, maintain 1.8 PvP. Obviously, Hypixel has the ability to pick and choose what features they want from modern versions, because again, they're playing 1.7 in the background. So of course, keep the PvP exactly the same, or PvE, I guess in this case. No hit cooldown, nothing weird, no shield popping up in the offhand or anything like that. Just keep it as it is. Of course, blocking won't be possible anymore, but blocking really never did anything in SkyBlock. It's not like it reduced your damage anyway, so I guess right click would still activate item abilities. There would just be no friggin' shield, because again, blocking doesn't do anything in SkyBlock, so that's not a problem. And of course, the biggest thing I guess we could talk about is the offhand. So SkyBlock would officially support the offhand. Now, what would this mean? You could put a bow maybe in the offhand alongside a sword. You'd maybe have some mana-based items such as the voodoo doll or the ink wand in the offhand. Of course, left click would hit with the sword in the right hand. Right click would use the item in the left hand. Now, you might be wondering, if there's an item with an ability such as the aspect of the end, how would you use that if it's in your main hand? Well, I propose that you'd still be able to use the item ability of your main hand weapon, so long as you shift right click. So you crouch and right click, and it'll activate that ability. Now that could use some work. Maybe just straight up disable item abilities in the main hand and just have it so that the meta is, so for example, if you want to use AOTE, just have that in the offhand. I don't know, but it would be really nice to have an offhand in SkyBlock, especially for something like the voodoo doll or the ink wand. It also gives you a technical 10th, 9th, because the SkyBlock menu item, a 9th hotbar slot, so that'd be cool. I also proposed that there be a bubble system. If anyone's played modded Sky Factory, Project Ozone, FTB, stuff like that. Baubles are basically talismans, except there's only like 5 slots, and they can only be taken up by one of each type of item. For example, there'd be a necklace slot, there'd be a goggle slot, bracelet slot, and there'd be multiple bracelets, necklaces, goggles, whatever that you could put in that slot. And there'd be one slot for the elytra, so you can dual equip an elytra and a chest plate. That would be cool. I think that'd be cool to add in addition to talismans, because instead of just stocking up on every single bauble or talisman in the game, that you have to pick and choose. So there'd be different baubles for different situations. For example, before, the X-ray goggles would be really cool to have in addition to a helmet. Now, there might not be a visual effect on the player, but at least, you know, it'd be a menu in your Skyblock menu. For example, the Sack of Sacks, if anyone remembers that update, where it lets you pick up mass amounts of items. I don't know. That'd be really cool. As I said before, bauble could be the elytra, and if you have fireworks in your offhand, this is a 1.10 feature, I believe, then you'd propel yourself forward and be able to fly really fast with the elytra. So that would be nice, and of course could be dual equipped with a chest plate. So here's a cool system that I thought of a while ago, and I threw it in with this update, and that's varying types of pickaxe weapons. So there'd be pickaxes that actually do damage. They give you strength, they give you damage, they can be enchanted with like sword enchants, they could be reforged. But pickaxes would have a special new stat called bulldoze, which would increase your attack speed and haste by a certain percentage with each consecutive hit. And there'd be no cooldown, so you hit something and then your next hit will be available sooner. And if you spam click, then you get to a point where you can attack like 50 times in like 3 seconds. As fast as you can click, basically. But it you know, builds up to that point, and if you miss a hit, it resets. So that would be really cool. And you'll see why later a pickaxe weapon would be helpful. I think Skyblock add-ons, or some mod in Badline does this, I don't know what it is, but the spectral arrow effect on our RNG drops, Slayer bosses, anything that deserves to be highlighted. Let's say you dropped an item and you want to find it, it'll be highlighted with the spectral arrow effect. That'd be really nice. But anyway, off to enemies and bosses. So first of all, in this far end island, of course there'll be shulkers everywhere, and they'll be able to hit you with those little orb things. They'll get hit by the anti-gravity beam. But back to the pickaxe concept, there'd be a boss in the middle of the island that is a big block, and it'd be similar to the slider boss from the Aether. If anyone has ever played that mod, it only can move in one axis at a time, X, Y, Z, but no diagonals. So it only moves in straight lines, and as it moves, it tries to hit the player. So it'll try and smack them and do damage. And this mob can only be hurt by pickaxes. Now that's why the pickaxe weapons would be helpful. And this is why bulldoze would be helpful as well. If you can get a ton of consecutive hits on the slider, it will take a ton of damage. But of course, it's moving really fast. It does massive damage by smacking into you when it moves in straight lines, so it'll be pretty hard to get consecutive hits on it. So yeah, there you go. That'd be the boss of the island. Now, a few other things that would be cool, maybe shields, but I think the recipe needs to be way more expensive and they need to be way less helpful. If you're gonna have a shield, I would say it'd only be like a 25% reduction in damage at most. It's just, I dislike shields. It's a cool item in concept. Maybe if there was like a special shield that would repel damage, kind of like thorns, or if you're able to shield bash or place it on the ground like in some Call of Duties, like you literally like hold the button and then you could just place the shield down and mobs can't pass it. That'd be neat. But you know, I'd stay away from shields unless it's something that's really cool or different from vanilla. So anyway, that is the far end island concept using 1.9 and 1.10 features. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, there's a few other little ones that I did not hash out nearly as much, but I might as well mention it. A Volcano Island, which would be another nether island in terms of equipment buffs. For example, Frozen Blaze, Blaze Pet. The structure would be mostly magma blocks, lava, orange and yellow stained glass with lava behind it, nether wart blocks, red nether bricks. You basically would be mining, it'd be a mining island inside of a volcano. How cool would that be? There'd be large cave systems, new ores, for example, ruby, could be simulated with some modern block that's very bright red. You can mine rubies, and then maybe that could be its own minion in collection, possibly. There'd be skeletons of large animals stuck in the walls made out of bone blocks, and of course, since we're using modern versions, you can actually use bone blocks instead of nether quartz. As things get deeper, there's more and more bedrock and more ash looking stuff. And then once you get to the bottom, there'd be a lot of withers, and then there'd be an actual wither boss, which would be neat. Finally, there'd be a use for all that gear that reduces wither damage. But yeah, that's really all there is for the Volcano Island. I didn't hash it out as much because I feel like just the end island update and like the far end would take 6 months to make. So I just want to throw some ideas out there to give you guys an idea of why modern versions in Minecraft would be really good. Another one's a desert island, which would be, you know, it'd have a pyramid. They'd be populated by fossils, husks on the outside, mummies. Traveling merchants with llamas could be walking around the outside, and you can get cool items from that. You know, stuff like that. Like from, I think it's 1.15 adds traveling merchants, and husks come in like 1.10 or something. And then the last one, which is actually my second favorite to the end island, and that is the swamp island. It'd have a backwoods voodoo type of thing, or maybe nightmare, haunted. So the structure of this island would be lots of leafless trees, swampy or muddy terrain. Some ponds would actually get pretty deep, and there'd need to be wooden platforms to stand on so you don't fall in, and there'd be lily pads to jump on. But in this water, there'd be trenches that go pretty deep, like I'd say 10-20 blocks, and there'd be seaweed and kelp in there, which would give a new collection, 1.13. Mushroom blocks would be all over the place, especially near stone. There'd be a big wooden mansion similar to the vanilla one. It'd be populated by, you know, the illagers and all of those type of mobs. There'd be a new storage device called the barrel. They would be exactly the same as a chest. They're mostly for aesthetic purposes. There'd be lanterns used for lighting. Maybe inside the house, there'd be a huge room that has like a loom similar to this. This is a really obscure reference. It'd be a loom similar to the one from Fairly Odd Parents Shadow Showdown. I don't know why I thought of that, but it'd be kind of cool. Maybe an item that reverses gravity for you would be neat as well, but I don't think you can do that without mods, so let's not get too far into that. There'd be bamboo on the far end of the island, so another new collection and minion. Weapons and equipment, you'd get access to the Totem of Undying, which works just as vanilla. It's basically if the saving grace actually worked without teleporting you, so that'd be neat. Crossbows would be a new type of weapon and could be a better version of bows in general. Maybe it'd be more damage, same fire rate, or slower fire rate, or faster fire rate. It depends, I don't know. They'd come with custom enchants. Triple shot, I think, is one of the default ones, something that makes it shoot faster. I don't know. A crossbow line of weapons would be really neat. And then finally, a magic tome, which would be a green recipe book, again 1.12 I think, and it has a variety of spells and can be upgraded by collecting spell pages. So you'd be able to have a fire spell, an electricity spell, a freezing spell. So it'd be like this this book that you hold around, just like in, I think it's, does Skyrim do tomes? I think it does, but it's usually used to summon things in a one-time use. But this one would use mana, obviously. Enemies and bosses. There'd be witches all around in the swamp outside of the mansion. They'd have their own little huts, and they'd be defending, you know, the all the stuff you could find out there. There'd probably be kelp or whatever. There'd be phantoms flying in the sky, and vindicators, evokers, vexes, illusioners, pillagers, ravagers, whatever, in the house itself, in the mansion. And maybe drowned would come up out of the water to try and pull you in and kill you. And then finally, I think it'd be cool if there was a unique mob that hid in the shadows that you could just barely see in the corner of your vision, and then when you turn to look at it, it disappears, similar to the Slender Man. That would be cool. Just like a Slender Man type mob that's always far away from players, just out of sight in the fog, just hiding behind a tree looking out at you. Anyway, those are all my ideas for what could be done if Hypixel SkyBlock updated to 1.16. Now, a lot of these features are actually pre-1.16, but, you know, these are just examples of all the things they could do if, again, using their plugin magic, they, instead of using 1.7 to simulate 1.8, they use 1.7 to simulate any version. Of course, the biggest problem with this concept is that they need developers, because right now, with their current capacity, just the end island alone is estimated to take about 6 months to do. So, yeah, I guess my main point for this video, let's get Hypixel some profits. I don't know. Let's be very supportive, because I know there's going to be an update that pushes probably soon that might be controversial, might make some people mad, but people have to realize that the IRL trading problem is very, very large. It needs to die. That like, it's a literal industry. That industry needs to die. And if anybody's going to profit in this situation, it should be Hypixel, not some random person that was hacking. So I don't know. Be very supportive of Hypixel. If you have any ideas as to how Hypixel could increase profits to, you know, actually hire more developers to make crazy updates like this possible, leave them in the comments below. I'll be reading everything, and I'll leave a heart on any comments that I think could be good for Hypixel. Just throwing some ideas out there, right? This is just a quick segment for me. I think it would be a good idea if Hypixel went down the route of Clash of Clans in some ways. So it'd be somewhat pay to win, but not really. Kind of like with the scrolls. Just a quick concept. What if there was like this token you could buy in the Hypixel store that were to speed up the rate in which Cat upgrades pets? You know, something small. It just gets rid of a minor inconvenience. It really doesn't change the flow of the game all that much. Another example could be maybe making it so that when you upgrade a minion, it takes like a set amount of time. For example, upgrading a minion from tier 1 to 2 would take like 5 minutes, 2 to 3 would take 10 minutes, 3 to 4, 15, on and on and on. And then like a wheat minion going from tier 10 to tier 11 would take like 24 hours. Maybe a token could be used to speed that up. I don't know. Just some ideas. But Hypixel really needs to do something about the IRL trader problem, and the more profits they get, the more developers they can get, and then the more updates they can bring. So I don't know. What do you think of that? There's a lot of comment feedback I'm asking for in this video. Well, anyway, I guess that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.